Welcome back to the Ironsights podcast. It is another After Dark version. I am here with a very good friend of mine, two good friends of mine. I'm going to start with my good friend, Bryant Pham. Bryant, welcome to the show, my man.
What's up, guys? Always good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to have you back in the studio. We've been in here several times for other things, but we're going to learn a little bit more about you. And it just wouldn't be an After Dark episode without my good friend, JP, what up?
What up?
Good to have you back, sir.
Yep.
Let's jump right into this. We're going to talk to Bryant Pham. Bryant Pham's been part of our community, our circle within the circle for as long as I can remember. And the thing that I like the most about Bryant is one, he appears to be a really quiet guy. But in the reality of things, he's not that quiet. He's just a very observant dude. And if I need to know anything about anything in the world of firearms, gear, and all the things that maybe revolve around that, I can count on Bryant to be a very educated and reliable resource to give me what I feel is really important for me, which is a very objective opinion, very informed opinion about things.
Yep. No stakes in the game.
Yeah. Yep. He's got exactly. So you don't have any skin in the game, right? And so I think just to give people context, we met on the shooting range. We met through a friend of ours, Kyle. And that said, we've spent quite a few hours. I mean, hundreds at this point. Yeah.
Dozens of range days at this point, but strictly range days.
That's it. Yeah. And so this is and we've spent lots of time in the gym, on the fitness floor here, which I think is worth saying because we'll talk a little bit about that tonight, just in terms of your involvement with fitness and how it's impacted you. That's part of tonight's discussion for sure. But Bryant, why don't you tell us just a little bit about kind of yourself, who you are, where you came from, and I'll help fill in the gaps.
Sure, man. I'll start with my upbringing, kind of where I came from, parents, childhood, that sort of thing. Just give a background of who's this guy, right? So I was born here in California, Bay Area native, born to two refugees from the Vietnam War, my mother and father. A little backstory about them, since I think that'll be important later because it gets into a little bit of the upbringing and sort of that story. But again, they're both refugees of the war, right? Left Vietnam with pretty much nothing on their backs, just duffel bags, maybe trash bags full of clothes. My dad was a little bit luckier. They both came from military families, but my dad, his father was a colonel in the South Vietnamese army during that time. Okay. So when the fall of Saigon happened,
that's not a good place to be, man.
Not a good place, dude. They got him onto an aircraft carrier and they booked it over here to New Jersey, of all places, right after the fall of Saigon. Now, my mom, not as fortunate. Her father was in the military as well, but he was line infantry. So not all of the perks that my dad's father got. And they weren't able to get out of Vietnam until a couple years after. So they lived under the communist control. Wow. And actually my grandfather was imprisoned by them. So that's part of the reason why they couldn't get out as well. Some of her sisters got out early by boat. Went over to the Philippines, and you know how that goes, ravaged by pirates.
That was another
crammed on boats.
Whole other set of circumstances.
Not a good time. So, but the point of both of those experiences is that they came to America, both of them, with absolutely nothing but the hope that they could make something here in the States, right? And they were successful. They did. Both of them went to the booming tech industry at the time, back when Netscape and Sun and Oracle were picking up off the ground. Mm-hmm. And they were able to, buy a house in 95 in Campbell. Nice house now. Certainly not the price it was. Yeah, absolutely. And had me. So
you got siblings?
Got one sister. She's 21.
Okay, yeah. So talk a little bit about growing up. So what you just disclosed is Campbell. So that's really kind of. It's about as south in San Jose as you can get.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's between Saratoga, between San Jose, between St. Clair. Campbell's small. It really is.
Yeah, I was just actually with some officers from Campbell. I want to say the the city of Campbell is only like 6 miles by 6 miles.
Yeah.
So relative to San Jose, which is the 10th largest city in the United States of America, it's very, very small, but it's kind of on the border of kind of the most south of San Jose as you can get, right?
Yeah, it's all suburbs pretty much. Right. Yeah.
So tell me about growing up, the son of refugees, Vietnamese refugees here basically in South San Jose.
Yeah. Growing up in the suburbs, East San Jose is primarily more Asian dominant. Very
much so.
You have Campbell, you have Saratoga, Los Gatos. It's a little bit more mixed, less Asian there. But growing up, it wasn't easy. For one, I dealt with a lot of, I guess you could call it racism growing up, just because there weren't a lot of Asians at the schools I went to. And I kind of struggled between different friend groups. Like in one hand, I kind of rebelled against my parents a little bit. I grew up skateboarding and, running away and doing all this kind of shit that they hated, being strict Asian parents that they are. And on the other hand, I also had a very nerdy friend group growing up playing tons of video games. So it was kind of this clash of like two different mentalities. Like, who am I? Am I this skateboarder growing up, hating my parents, or am I this nerdy Asian kid doing math? Like, every typical Asian thing, like advanced math class, advanced language, like whatever, right? The typical stuff growing up that your parents want you to do, as like a tiger mom or tiger dad. That's the term that they call it. But then also like, hanging out with the kids that, skateboarding, not really doing anything for themselves. So it was kind of a weird situation growing up.
It's a little bit of a dichotomy there for sure. I mean, I cannot relate at all, except that I had I grew up in a predominantly white area. In my neighborhood, there were a couple of Asian families, one Korean family, sort of first generation Korean family, and a lot of what you just described, I witnessed and experienced. But JP, I got to imagine some of this rings home for you too. No, I mean, you had a sort of a similar experience.
No, that's pretty much exactly how my background was, is nerdy. Basically video games, cars, depending on what age I was. And, I guess you could say I dabbled in skating a little bit, but that didn't last very long.
Yeah. You took the path of, rebelling against your parents even harder, right? Going away from the stereotypical, like, finish high school, go to university, get a good tech job, right? That's what they want you to do, right? As many Asian
I know
parents.
that you and me have talked about how there's a lot of similarities with our background, because my mom's Filipino, and that's the side that raised me. And I know that I dropped out of high school, and even to this day, I actually forgot to tell you this, dude. My mom is so unimpressed with what I do that she actually told me that there's a boot camp place hiring down the street from us. Dude.
Oh, she wants you to go.
That was this week.
She wants you to go coach a boot camp?
She was like, yeah, dude, they said that they need more coaches and stuff like that. And I was like, damn, you're so unimpressed by what I do. But my point in saying that, I guess, is that she'll do shit like that all the time. Say oh, with all this medical and trauma training you're doing, you could be an EMT. And I'm like, well, little do you know that I don't know. I don't want to. Yeah. Anyways, I'm happy with where I'm going, but that's the Asian background. It's it's education and pretty much.
It's education, and it's never good enough.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So I've had a few conversations actually at this table, one specifically with Chris Chang, Top Shot Chris, if you guys remember that one, but it was very, very, what you're saying is very, very familiar. It's kind of it's very much keep your head down.
Yep.
I'm sorry, when I say I just mean my impression and what I've gotten. And this is just in my observation.
Yeah, definitely.
It's keep your head down. Don't cause trouble. Don't rebel. Don't draw any attention to yourself. Just keep your head down, focus on your education in the institution, do it. And at the end, there will be things waiting for you when you're finished, because of the work that you put in and the fact that you didn't raise any flags along the way. And those things are generally you're going to become a doctor, you're going to become a lawyer,
engineer,
you're going to become an engineer. And particularly here in Silicon Valley, it's very much the tech industry. And I don't think I'm wrong, am I?
No, absolutely not. It's this very common trope among, I mean, I think a lot of immigrant families, whether it's, Asian or whatever it is, people who come from nothing and come here to America, right? There's a lot of pressure, but among the Asian community, you do especially see that. And I mean, there's a couple things at play here, right? I mean, Asian culture in general, even in those Asian countries themselves, is very like non-confrontational. It is very much a worker bee mindset, right? I mean, if you look at those guys in Japan, they work literally like 12 hours a day and sleep at their jobs. Like that's the norm. That's the mentality. And it's very much, keep your head down. Don't make a fuss about it. Do your job. So when those people come to America with that same culture already set in their heads, but then also come with nothing, right? There's a big drive to assimilate to American culture. Keep your head down, get that job, do what you got to do to survive. And ultimately that's what gets pushed down onto the kids as well. Like me, right? Like all of those other guys that we know, Will, Henry, Andrew, they've had the similar experiences growing up, JP, right? All of our parents are refugees or immigrants from these countries. So when you have all these things at play here, you have the Asian culture, you have your parents themselves who came here with nothing and have this mentality that, hey, I came from Vietnam, from this war-torn country. My kid isn't going to amount to nothing, right? So there's a lot of pressure on you growing up that whatever you do is, one, it's never going to be enough. You have to overachieve. And two, you got to follow these, I guess, paths that they have carved out for you that generally lead to success, right? Like lawyer, engineer, doctor, whatever it is. So there's that. And then, I mean, from there, you have other influences within culture, within media here that then influence your upbringing as I've experienced it as an Asian American growing up here in America. So there's a lot of factors at play that kind of influenced my upbringing and ultimately the different hobbies and the different hobbies and how I actually approach them too, I think.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. The interesting part or an important part of this conversation as we sort of transition. I mean, you mentioned what it's like growing up. You mentioned a lot of things, culture, education, non-confrontational. There's some key kind of takeaways there. How different is that though from the culture that you're being integrated into on a daily basis, say in the public school system, where you're around a bunch of, for lack of a better term, white kids?
It's different, man.
It's I want to think it's almost opposite. I don't know if that's really fair or not, but it is so far removed from what you're probably seeing your quote unquote friends doing or how they're approaching things or thinking as you're going through your days at school and your weekends with your friends and socially and trying to figure out some kind of a balance between this, what appears to be a massive dichotomy.
It really is, man. And it's a huge difference. So, where I went to school was the Asians hung out together because it was a smaller group. And immediately you notice that, the other races, white, black, Mexican, whatever it is, the men there, I see them, they're more confident, they're more confrontational. It's more of like that a masculine approach, a masculine mindset, right? A more typical, stronger, confident approach to, their outlook in life. Whereas the Asian guys were typically more quiet. They didn't speak up for themselves or for other Asians. Like they just kind of took a beating, right? And because of that, I think because of that is why I think the people in middle school and high school growing up chose the Asian groups to be the butt of all the jokes, the butt of all the bullying and whatever it is, because it's easy targets, both in terms of their approach, in terms of stature, like whatever it is, right? I mean, these guys, I say it's me, including that, but they just took it because that's what you were told to do growing up. You take it, you move on, don't cause a fuss, keep your head down, you'll be okay.
I think there's got to be other things there. I mean, physically, you mentioned stature, the Asian male is generally speaking a smaller statured,
Yeah, it's just
human.
a fact. Yeah.
It just is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So there's that. Plus there's the, hey, don't make a fuss. Don't embarrass your parents. Don't embarrass your family. If I have to come down to school
Right.
and get you out of trouble, like that's
a no-go, man.
That's
Yeah.
a curse on the family almost, as so to speak. I think I watched a little bit of that happen. And so then that trickles over into other things. When I say trickle, I mean, it certainly influences other things like involvement or non-involvement in sport.
Oh yeah.
Or athletics or, different social groups. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So like, I mean, just thinking about all the different hobbies or things that a lot of these guys get into growing up, again, these guys, meaning me included, it's a lot of things like band, like music, lots of video games, kind of things that shield you away from.
And you didn't play any sports at all?
No sports aside from skateboarding growing up. And again, that's like a individual sport. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
It's almost an expression of whatever it is that you're feeling or
right.
the athleticism that you do or don't have, right?
I think I like skateboarding personally growing up. One of the biggest reasons was that I don't have to worry about the other guy being like 6'2", right? You know what I mean?
You're almost at an advantage
like football
if you're super lightweight.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What did your parents say anything about sports with you?
My dad was a soccer player. He was a really good soccer player in college, was on varsity in freshman year of his college. And that career got ended really short through some injuries, but he tried to get me into soccer. He tried to, and it just didn't work for me. I tried it growing up, just didn't like it. So they tried to get me into organized sports because they saw as a good outlet and approach to whatever it is, right? An organized sport, a team, something
That's interesting.
Direct your energy to.
My dad always said I was going to be a football player because I've been fat my whole life and I was like kind of stocky, and like my mom hated sports, and she basically never wanted me to play sports. My dad was like, dude, he's going to try at least 1 year of football. Trust me, this kid's built for it. And like, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, dude. I gave up the first week. I just straight up.
Really?
Yeah, I just gave up.
Why was it?
I was the fattest one on the team, and I don't know, looking back, if this was good or bad on their part. Either way, I shouldn't have gave up. My mom was like, being like, yeah, you should give up, because she didn't want me to get hurt. But they for sure, I recognize they for sure were harder on me. I think that was their way of being like, bitch, you're going to be the last runner here. You're going to get it the worst. And because I was last place.
You mean the coaches or
the coaches?
Oh, wow.
Not the teammates. The teammates were nice to me. But the coaches were like, dude, you can't be last place running. And this was the first week. I remember I couldn't move the first week physically.
I want to weigh in here. So I watched that happen as a young kid, going into high school sports specifically. And listen, I mean, if anybody that knows me knows that I do not sign off on people's bullshit. And that includes hey, look, if you're going to be out here on the field or you're going to be out here on the court or in the gym or whatever, you're going to put out. That's why we're here. And you put out to the best level that you possibly can. And we have all shapes and sizes out on a fitness floor. And I've had all kinds of coaches. And I can remember very, very specifically my freshman year of high school. I had the worst. And so if you're listening out there and you know who you fucking are, you were the worst coach in the history of coaches. And I don't care what kind of jobs they gave you or what kind of awards they gave you. You were the worst kind because what you did was you humiliated kids. And that didn't help kids. What that did was that pushed kids away, or it made them angry, which was the complete opposite of what your job is as a coach. Your job as a coach is to build up and help kids be the best they can be in whatever situation they're potentially faced with. And I was one of those kids. I remember being put in situations that were to humiliate me. And it was tough because I didn't know my mom didn't let me play football until I got to high school. And I begged her and she's like, nope, can't do it. You're going to wait till you get to high school. And then by the way, my mom's the biggest football fan you'll ever meet. So it wasn't like she didn't like football. It was like, she just wanted, there's a time and a place for this, and youth Pop Warner and whatever. She saw, ahead of time, she was wise to that. She saw the garbage that was kind of going in and the garbage that was coming out. But when I got there, I had a lot to learn in a really short period of time. And I had some fucking awful influences. Again, you're horrible human beings, you guys. You know who you are. And my point of that is so I saw that, and I saw kids get discouraged and not want to participate. And we did have a large population, in just in context of this conversation, of Asian kids that were smaller kids. They were smaller kids, and they stayed smaller as the rest of us kind of grew up. Like I put on 25 pounds in my freshman year, like, and grew like 3 inches. It was crazy, like crazy growth spurt. I was kind of a late bloomer, but I watched them like, nah, this is not for me, because not necessarily because they couldn't play or they couldn't contribute, but because somebody discouraged them to the extent that, they basically, it was validated what they had been told, that you're just not good enough and you shouldn't be doing this anyway. Fuck you guys for that shit. Fuck you guys. Seriously. So anyways, I digress. I just needed to get that off my chest maybe a little bit. So you're in this kind of the situation where, you've got parents that are maybe not being as encouraging. You said your dad was encouraging you to play soccer and it just wasn't a good fit for you. But where are your outlets? I mean, I heard you mention video games and skateboarding. But what are your other outlets as a young Asian kid growing up in, here in America as basically a first generation immigrant, or second, I guess? I spent
a lot of hours playing video games, and I was skateboarding like 10 hours every day, pretty much. But other than that, I also got really into kind of the arts, right? So photography, videography. I was like the filmer in our crew. So I was skating around behind the guys with a fisheye on my camera, and I was filming and making edits of everyone and doing photography also. And so I didn't like fitting into the stereotypical like fit, right? Robotic engineer doing that strict path. So the arts, skateboarding, things like that, I think were the ways that I branched away from that mold, Like self-expression? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, skateboarding itself is very much a self-expressive sport. I mean, there's no judging, there's no rules, there's nothing. Like, it's whatever you want to do, whatever you want to enjoy, and skateboarding is what you do. So I found that very liberating outside of, how I was raised at home, a very strict household growing up. So being able to be out there skateboarding, it was like a freedom, man.
It's very much counterculture though.
Very.
Right?
Very.
It's not accepted.
No.
It's skateboarding is a crime, right? I mean, even when I was growing up, and I grew up at the height of, we're talking Caballero, Tony Hawk,
Birdhouse. And,
dude, all, I mean, that Powell Peralta, I mean, I was an 80s and early 80s and 90s kid. I mean, but it was taboo. I mean, my parents hated it. They would not buy me a skateboard with a skull on it. Like, so, I mean, if you know that era, like Powell Peralta was the shit, and that's what I wanted. And they said, no, we're not getting that. So I ended up with a Nash, and anybody that knows skateboards knows Nashes suck. So I was laughed at and whatever else. But I skateboarded too, and the point of that is it's very counterculture. So I imagine mom and dad were not uber happy with that, and probably didn't understand that at all.
They hated it. They wanted me to stop. And, I hid skateboards. I would tell them I'm going somewhere like to my friend's house and go skateboarding. And they would actually drive by where I said it was. Maybe I said I was at a park, like playing basketball or doing something. And they would drive by and I wasn't there. They'd call me like, hey, Brian, where are you at right now? I'm like, oh, I'm at the park, like bullshitting. And they're like, yeah, no, you're not. I'm here. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck, they got me. But yeah, I think that's what attracted me to it. I mean, another thing about it was that skateboarding is like a very eclectic gathering of people,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. From like all these different kinds of people. And a lot of the times they're running away from something too.
Yeah.
I was running away from my household, from the kind of box I'd put around me based on, what I faced at school and stuff. So it was super attractive to be among people who were kind of, for lack of a better way to say it, like hated and disliked by others. You know what I mean?
There's other stuff that comes along with that. And I think, again, as we're sort of developing your backstory here and the context for kind of where we're going to take this conversation, or where I'd like to take this conversation, is there's other things that are associated with that. So with skateboarding, there was a music scene. There was a fashion scene.
Oh yeah.
Right. There was a language, or like almost a discourse, right? Yeah. There was art associated,
photography, videography, the art. The decks, like everything.
All kinds of stuff. Like it really exposed people. Like I again, I don't think people really respect what skateboarding or skating kind of brought to the table from a cultural perspective. So again, counterculture as we've already stated, but there was so much there, and there still is for that matter. And it's still, I think, very misunderstood and almost on purpose. So, and there's also a part of you like being a part of it, as you've already mentioned, like, this is like rebelling. This is what my parents don't want me to do, so I'm going to do it. So it almost like validates the reason you're doing that.
But at the same time, still being very nerdy, still being a best student I could be, right?
On all those things, which is interesting.
Yeah, so these two things butt up against each other, and it was weird. It was a really weird experience growing up. But
that generally, in my experience and what I've observed, it escalates because at some point the skateboarding isn't enough, and there's this trying to fit in piece, and you recognize like, well, I've chosen this thing that makes me feel good, puts me with this group of people, we have common, I don't know, goals, there's goals alignment, there's values alignment, so to speak,
right? But
then you realize like, this isn't going anywhere. Like there's not anything really beyond this, and at the end, and I'm going to just say it, it's just not cool, right?
You get older, and then
it's just not cool anymore. So it has to escalate. It has to kind of graduate to the next thing. Maybe talk about that. What was it for you, if anything?
Yeah. So after skateboarding, and I think you'll see a common thing among all of my hobbies. I would say that all of my hobbies are something that I call Equalizer Hobbies, and I'll explain that later on, I think. But another thing about growing up as like small Asian dude, I see a lot of other Asian guys get into these same hobbies too. Not strictly, but for some of the reasons that it takes away factors like stature, takes away, they're all hobbies that empower you, right? And so the next hobby I got into was cars, modifying cars, racing cars. I bought a 91 Miata for $2,000 working at Wingstop. And I started modifying that, racing in the mountains. And that's where I started to feel like really good about myself. Like I'm racing, I'm building this car on my own in the garage and taking it to the mountains and racing these other guys who have a lot more powerful, like I was racing STIs and Evos and like all-wheel drive turbo cars that were on paper really fast, but I was still taking them even on the uphill. Driver mod
on uphill,
on the uphill, dog.
That's interesting.
I'm not gonna say the highway, but
I want to ask you where at, but
Highway 9, the classic.
Okay.
Highway 9.
Everybody races up there. So where did you learn about this stuff? Because it wasn't from dad, and it wasn't from mom, right?
They hated this one too.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. So where are you learning? Where are you gaining this knowledge? Where are you gaining this information from?
I think it started with Need for Speed, and this is funny because
cinema.
Yeah, cinema and video games.
Is it underground?
It was actually Shift 2. I got on the Need for Speed chain late.
Okay, so Need for Speed, the video game.
Because I was a gamer, right? Playing all these games. And it's funny because growing up, like being a skateboarder, I don't know what like skateboarders, like my skateboarding crew, like thought car guys were fucking idiots. And like we always hated on car dudes. And then lo and behold,
you graduated.
180. Yeah. Did a 180 and fell in love with cars. And a lot of it for the same reasons, because again, it's like a self-expressive thing. You're modifying your car how you want it to be. It's you in your car, free to do what you want to do, right? There's a lot of similarities between cars, and skateboarding in the way that they're self-expressive and individual sports, right? And that it's a measure of your own skill, not a measure of how strong you are, not a measure, well, maybe for skateboarding you can argue, but skill, right? Individual skill. It takes everything away, but the time and effort that you put into it, that's what matters.
Well, it's definitely self-expressive because for one, it shows how smart you are with gear. If you're able to, like, I know me and a couple of my friends were like at the top of like the world in like quarter mile times for like stock frame Evos and STIs. And like, it showed like how good of a driver you were, or B, how good you were with
setting up the car.
Yeah. The combination of how you set up your car. Right. So like there was a lot that had nothing to do with like physical strength or stature. And honestly, that stuff actually hurt me personally when I'd race my brother who's 5'5" and 150 pounds.
It's an advantage.
I used to get so fucking pissed off because I was like that much better than him as a driver, but I was 100 pounds heavier than him.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely with cars, I definitely think that there's a lot of self-expression, and also for me, even to this day, like I still feel free when I drive like a good car.
Yeah,
that's for that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's interesting. I was just having a conversation. So the other night, I needed to spend a bunch of money on a new Apple computer, and I wound up in the Apple store. Yeah, it was one of the local stores here, and it was, you know, you go in there and they have the Apple geniuses or whatever that are helping you out while you're there. I don't know if that's what they call them or whatever, but there's a million guys, you know, running around in there with Apple shirts on and whatever else. So I get in this conversation, this guy's young man. This dude was, I had this amazing conversation with this young guy. It was Vietnamese and almost the same situation, man. Parents had come over from Vietnam. They were refugees. And he was a young guy. His parents were a little bit older than him, but they had come over, and we started down this path of, he was very inquisitive about who I was and where I came from, and he asked a lot about the fitness piece, which I get a lot. You know, when I'm out, you know, people are like, "Hey, man, what I got to do if I want to do this, or what do I eat, or what supplements do I have to take, whatever." So it started there. But then it very quickly got into me asking him questions, because I was very enamored by this guy's inquisitiveness at his age.
He's got to know, right?
He has to know.
Obsession,
and
almost.
Obsessed and asking very good questions and being very articulate in his way. So we got into it, and he starts telling me about his car. And I go, "Well, what kind of car you got?" He's like, "Well, I got a 65 Mustang." I said, "Well, dude, I got one of those.
Damn, okay.
I got one of those too." And I said, "Well, tell me about it." He goes, "Well," and then he just starts fucking going off. And this dude turned from, and by the way, he was very, very good with all the things I was asking him. I mean, he was an expert in the field at Apple. I mean, they don't put you on the floor at Apple unless you know your shit. Right. Anyways, but we talked stocks, we talked trading, we talked all kinds of stuff. And then we ultimately got into this car conversation. Then he goes, "Yeah, I got a 65 Mustang." And he pulls out his phone, and then for 10 minutes, we're just going through photos, and he's going back and forth about these cars. And so it came back to cars. Then he starts telling me about his video game obsession before that. Right. And then he gets into the, you know, like, I didn't play sports. Right. And one of the reasons I didn't play sports, because I was always a smaller guy. Yeah. So I got into this.
Is this guy me?
Bro, I was like, this is very familiar. So this conversation that you're telling me, I was like, wow, I'm really getting into this conversation. By the way, this car was bitching. I mean, I was like, that's the car I want. Like, it was good or better than any car that I ever wrenched on and ever drove. And I don't think I had that obsession. And I don't think it came from the same place. I mean, I was obsessed with cars and wrenching on them, but not like this guy was. Mm-hmm. And he explained to me kind of where it came from, and that his parents were not, they did just not approve. And it's very expensive to do that.
Oh yeah.
Which is how he got into trading. He's like, "Hey, listen, you know, if I want to support my very expensive hobby, my very expensive car, and then I need to make some more money. I need a side hustle while I'm being a student and rebelling against my parents,
right,
and building this thing in their driveway, which they hate, you know, and all this other stuff." It's very familiar to the conversation I'm hearing right now. But at the end of the day, like, I'd be afraid of that car if I had to race it.
Oh, yeah.
But I would not be afraid of this guy in any other way.
Right.
And so it's what I hear you guys saying is funny, is very, kind of funny, but maybe not. I don't really know. But here's what I learned from this guy. Everything he learned, he taught himself.
Right.
And I asked him where he learned about it. He goes, "Dude, I just watched as much YouTube as I possibly could. I listened, I read as much as I could. I listened to as many podcasts as I could." This was all self-learned stuff. He had completely just enveloped himself in the learning process to get better and be better. And now he's got this crazy, crazy vehicle that can beat probably most stuff that's on the road in its class.
Right.
So anyway, I'm just handing this back to you, just going, you're not alone, man. This isn't weird. Like, and I bet people that are listening to this right now, there's going to be a large part of the population that's going, "Yeah, that's me. That sounds super familiar." So why is this important? I guess is where we're going. Like, why are we talking about this and why is this important? And for me, it trickles into the firearms industry and what we're seeing happen right now, specifically with the growth of our community, the growth of the industry, and where or who's influencing it and where it's coming from. So you build cars, you race cars, you know, you get good at that. There's these Equalizer Hobbies. Maybe talk a little bit more about the Equalizer hobby and how that escalated from cars to the next level.
Yeah. So I think before we'll talk for the evolution from cars to, let's say, firearms or whatever it is, the Equalizer hobby, just so everyone understands, what we call it Equalizer Hobbies because, again, they take away stature. They base it on skill or knowledge. And these Equalizer Hobbies also empower. There's a sense of masculinity and confidence and strength that comes from being good at these hobbies, right? That I think fills the void that a lot of these people growing up that I experienced, that guy you met experienced, you know, it fills that gap, right? It makes us feel stronger, confident, right? All of those different things. Perception is reality, right? It quickly becomes reality if you let it. And when you grow up, and all the jokes you hear about yourself emasculate you, feminize you, make you weak, when there's no one in the media that is similar to you, that's portrayed as strong or confident.
Talk about that. Talk about that when you say the media and who you're kind of looking to for influences. What do you mean?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, growing up, right, let's think about what strong, confident, masculine Asian characters were there that I had growing up. I mean, there's Bruce Lee and Jet Li, who were maybe the previous generation.
Yeah, they're before your time, man.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not the forefront of anyone's thoughts or in the media itself. You had Mr. Chow, not exactly the someone you want to look up to as like a strong masculine character, right? You've got Jackie Chan, who kicks ass, but also, I mean,
he's comical.
He's comic relief. So there's these common tropes, right? That we are just comic relief, or we're not to be taken seriously.
You're a joke.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got all of those. You've got the media. You've got the way your parents are raising you to be non-confrontational and not masculine in that sense. And then you've got all of the jokes that get laid on you at school. You know, you're short. You can't drive for shit. You got a small dick. Like all of the typical jokes that, again, make you feel like not a man, weak, right? So then you take all of those things, and when it becomes your perception and then reality, what do you do to escape that, to empower yourself to feel confident? I chose skateboarding, I chose cars, and eventually it led into airsoft and firearms as, you know, what are the next sort of Equalizer hobbies out there, right?
So I mean, there's a big jump from cars to, let's say, firearms / airsoft, because there's definitely two different things there.
Right.
While airsoft rifles, pistols are firearms by definition, there's a big difference to what I know you to be doing now,
right,
which is both firearms, like in the true sense, but also airsoft.
You're right.
What was the transition? What was the influence from cars to airsoft?
Yeah, that was so I'd always been interested in guns as a kid. One of my oldest memories, for whatever reason, it's not even a memorable memory, but I had just watched Air Force One with my dad with
great movie. Harrison
Ford. You know, the plane gets hijacked by Russians and he, like, you know, does his thing, right? After the movie, I had asked my dad, I was probably like 7 years old or something. I was like,
Christ, you're aging me right now.
Damn it. Whoops. Well, I asked him, like, what guns were they using? Like, I was just so interested, you know? And he was like, let's not talk about it. Like, typical.
And right? By the way, your dad would know.
He would know. Yeah.
Right.
And he was like, let's not talk about it. That's not good to think about those things. Right. So typical, again,
dismissed it.
Yeah. Going back to, you know, let's not talk about things that are dangerous or comfort. You know what I mean? He didn't want to talk about it. It was bad. It's not a good thing to be violent. Right. So I remember that, but then growing up, that interest stayed. So we would go to the library and I'd check out the books that were like history of guns, history of the machine gun, like all these different, like, in-depth books.
It's almost like the forbidden fruit that you're going to check out.
Oh yeah. Right? Oh, sorry. I didn't check them out because I couldn't check them out. My mom wouldn't let me, but I would go over and read them in the library, you know, while she was doing something else, and like learn about all the guns and stuff.
All right.
So that was, from, young age, 10 through middle school, high school, whatever, always very interested in guns. And that translated into video games, Call of Duty.
And you're right in the thick of that. I mean,
oh yeah, the heyday, Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops, World at War, like the heyday of, COD 4, how could I forget? But like the heyday of Call of Duty and like playing Battlefield and like learning about all the attachments, modding the guns, like I loved it. I enjoyed looking at the guns. I would watch YouTube videos of the gun animations. Like that's how much I loved just looking at the guns and seeing how they worked, right? Forgotten Weapons, I would watch that channel all the time. Just learning about guns. There was a good history channel series too about the history of the gun also. I think it's literally called History of the Gun or Tales of the Gun, actually, old series. But ever since I was young, just always infatuated. So when I kind of got bored with cars, I mean, I still mess with them, but I was looking for something different, right? What was next?
The great equalizer.
Yeah. Well, what's the best fucking equalizer aside from a bullet? And granted, I went to Airsoft first, but again, what's the greatest equalizer aside from a 6mm plastic BB? It doesn't matter if you're 6'5", 280 pounds, or me. That one BB's gonna take you out of the game, right? So I was like, oh dude, this is cool. I mean, this is like Call of Duty or Battlefield in real life. I'm getting these airsoft guns, modifying them with attachments, essentially Call of Duty or Battlefield, but in real my life. Hands. Yeah, in real life. Going out to these games and realizing that, hey, like it doesn't matter. Like I can outshoot this guy. I can outperform this guy.
This is so fascinating to me because it's so foreign, because I missed all of this, yet we're almost cut from very similar cloths, man. Like I missed all of that. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. I've never even seen Call of Duty being played live in front of me.
No way.
You know what?
No, so swear to God, like, dude, I'm 47 years old.
No, but you know
I probably have had friends along the way. Like, and any of my friends that still play it are 10 years younger than I am. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's a little foreign to me.
I think the common denominator here is media.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because, like, for example, if you hear any of these ex-military guys, what is some guys like Dakota Meyer and people from that era, whatever age group that is, which is generally between me and you.
Okay, like a war on terror,
like
guys.
40, something like that.
Yeah, so we're 15 years apart.
Yeah. So like my point is like, I want to say even Jocko, and I could be wrong here, but I listen to a lot of different stuff from all those guys. And usually you'll hear all of them say the same shit. Yeah. I watched the movie Navy SEALs.
Yeah. They always say Navy SEALs.
It was a great fucking flick. Like we watched that movie a million times.
They're all like, we watched this movie. And that's kind of like how you pop your cherry. And things like Call of Duty, where you can have an M4 as like just a stock gun that comes on the game, and then you can throw EOTech or aim point on there.
That's crazy.
You're like, what is this shit in real life? And then like the soft entry to guns is like Airsoft, right? Because you can get an EOTech on an Airsoft gun. Everything's legal. Everything's cool. You get to run around and fucking fuck shit up. But like, I think the common denominator here, which a lot of people really don't take into account, which is interesting to me, especially if you're in the business, is media.
Yeah.
And also that says a lot about like the climate we're in this world anyways. Right. Sure. But I pretty much everybody is like, they'll come back to like media if some form of like movie or video game, unless they were like, you know, my dad was a Navy SEAL and he needs to be a Navy SEAL too.
Again, when I say it, like movies for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure for me.
Yeah.
Video games I was just never into. My brother played them, but he played like Madden NFL, and you know, there were sports games, because that's kind of, that was our life. Like that was the reality, because the Call of Duty didn't exist yet, you know, like it just wasn't, those kind of things weren't there. I guess to that point, like we lived like this, or for him, for example, he lived this life through watching and playing sports video games, particularly football games. I was a big loser in high school, and like if I wasn't playing football, I was watching football, and it was live. And so college all day on Friday, started on Thursday night. There was always a Thursday night game. Then it was Friday night games. all day on Saturday, if I didn't have a game. Like, so if I wasn't playing football, I was watching it. We would literally camp out in my living room at my house or at somebody else's house. And we just it was just an all day from the time pregame started on, ESPN to the late night game. And then the next day we'd start over with the NFL. So I get it.
Yeah.
So I understand. And we played it as well to some extent. I was not a huge video game. So I digress. I don't want to get too far into that, but I get it. You're right. It's media. It's what you're seeing happening in front of you. There's sort of an infatuation with it or fantasization about it and a want to explore it at a different level and really experience it. So I do get that. So, going back to the Airsoft and the BBs and the soft entry into it, maybe talk about how you finally got there.
Yeah. A lot of airsofters, the logical next step is, then it's fun to play with these toy guns and shoot other people. It's awesome training, and we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But you want to try the real thing, right? You want to see how you can shoot a real gun well. I actually got into firearms a little bit later. I got my first Glock 19 the first year of COVID, and I always knew I was going to get a gun because I wanted to eventually start training and practice shooting because I wanted to see, right, how well I could do. But COVID took that path and accelerated it. Oh yeah, just like you, right?
Yep.
Just like JP, why he started training more. So yeah, got my first Glock 19. God, was that 2019? COVID? 2020?
No, 2020 is March of 2020 is when it all went down.
Yeah, So got my first Glock 19, and it all spiraled after that.
So talk about your involvement with Airsoft, because you're still heavily involved, more than ever.
We're going tomorrow.
Yeah, we're gonna go out tomorrow.
Yeah. So again, not a thing. So when I was a kid, it was laser tag.
Right, and pellet guns, right? That you shouldn't be shooting at each other. We
literally shot one another with one pump Daisy BB guns, right? Yeah. We went out with our ski jackets on. Mom, hopefully you're not listening right now.
Yeah, that's so dangerous.
No eye protection, no nothing. It's like no shooting in the face, but you can shoot anything. We walked out in jeans and ski jackets, and so everybody had like a tree house or a clubhouse in their yard or whatever. When we go out to the woods or whatever, we shoot one another with them. Like that was the thing. I didn't actually have a BB gun because I wasn't allowed to have one. I had real firearms. But mom was not going to buy me a BB gun, probably because she knew what I'd do with it, which was exactly what I'm describing, which was I borrow friends and we go out and we basically airsoft with copper BBs. So I do know what that feels like. But man, this industry of airsoft is massive now.
It is at its like biggest booming peak right now.
So I think we talk about this for a second, because the people that are paying, like to JP's point, the people that are paying the bills in the firearms industry right now are not military and LEO. It's the civilians.
Oh, yeah.
And how are they getting into this? There's gateways and there's entryways. And one of those is airsoft. Mm-hmm. And whether you're shooting firearms with powder and, full metal jackets, or you're shooting firearms with, BBs from an airsoft gun, all the other stuff aside from the projectile is nearly exactly the same.
It's all the same, man. I mean, the kit. So I think this is a good place to talk about, I think where you're going with this is, how does airsoft benefit the firearms community? How does it cross-train? Why is it booming so much right now? And why are so many gun guys who typically dismissed it years ago and looked down on airsoft, why are so many people paying attention to it right now, right?
Oh, and I definitely want to talk about the Asian culture and male culture and the influence that it has on everything you just said. Because when I look at it, I'm going, these guys own the business right now.
Oh, they're
spending all the money.
Yeah, definitely. And airsoft originated from Asia, right? In the first place. I think one, because, firearms are illegal and they wanted to experience firearms, but two, because, Equalizer, right? Equalizer hobby.
Dude, like, Liku.
Yeah, from Japan. Tactical. Everyone's seen that video.
The kid from Japan, like, pretty much everybody knows who that kid is in the firearms world for the most part. And he's an airsofter who pretty much has better like rifle, pistol manipulations than anybody else.
I think it was T-Rex who really exposed this dude, right?
Yeah.
So you put him out there and
he
go,
buys all T-Rex gear. He runs it all. And then he does it with Airsoft, but he's just like, he's an aimbot, dude. He's like a robot. But that's Airsoft. You know what I mean? And honestly, like the training value in Airsoft is like, it's probably so much better than anything else you can do other than like really being in a situation in terms of training, as long as you periodically or on a regular basis get recoil exposure with a real firearm, you know?
Definitely. You need to understand the game part and what's applicable to real life, right? So so I think there's a couple of different categories that Airsoft addresses when it comes to, you know, benefiting your training. One, which is the one that people typically look at the most, is tactics, right? The second is gear. And then the third is actually like a force on force experience, like actually getting to shoot moving real targets. So from the tactics perspective, right, that's where, you know, you do have to understand that Airsoft is a game sometimes, right? That drywall is not cover, that parts of the car are not cover. But once you get past that and you understand parts of the game that are a game, and you don't let those become bad habits, or you don't gamify it too much, you actually approach it with a good mindset, with good guys who are applying real tactics, dude, that's awesome training. And I forgot to mention physicality is another benefit of Airsoft, but we'll talk about that. So from the tactics perspective, like you are able to go out to these events, which are 40 hours long, continuous. You ruck in all your food, all your water, all your supplies, all of the tools you need to maintain your kit, not just your airsoft gun and BBs, right? You are sustaining yourself in these adverse environments. The op that I was just at was, it was like 30 degrees at night. My water bladder in my ruck blew up, got my sleeping bag.
It froze?
It didn't freeze, but it had punctured. So it blew up in my ruck. My sleeping bag was soaked. My sleeping mat popped. So it's just like the biggest suck ever, right? And so there I am at an Airsoft game, 30 degrees at night, no sleep system, and just get through it so that you can go, you know, fight and whatever, do whatever you need to do for the rest of the op. But from that experience point, like where else are you going to experience that kind of, I guess, situation or be put in that unless you are like backpacking out somewhere? But again, that situation, along with taking enemy contact and reacting to contact, it is completely unique to Airsoft. So the experience that it provides from facing those hardships and then implementing tactics like small unit tactics and CQB tactics is, I think, unmatched for civilians. Like as a civilian, where else are you going to get that experience, you know?
Yeah. So if you're looking for the experience, or you're looking for there's two things. There's the training aspect, and then there's the experience aspect. And I imagine that in the Airsoft world, you have people that are just out there for both.
Yep.
You know, people that are out there like, hey, I really just want this experience. I'm having fun with my buddies, and, you know, like I get to do these things and get to wear my gear, and I LARP around it.
Right. It's a photo op for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's that. And then for other people, they're thinking of it maybe at a little bit different level. Like how is this applicable to a potential situation that I may find myself in?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
What is the reality of this? And, or how can I take from these different situations that I'm faced with in this game?
Right.
And maybe analyze it as I step away to apply it, the lessons that I've learned, to what I may be faced with as a civilian in the real world.
Yeah.
You mentioned things like CQB, like, so if I'm going through a structure and I'm having to clear rooms or whatever else, how does that apply to what I do?
Yeah.
And so like you may be very offensive in an Airsoft game or in this op. Right?
Aggression, is what wins, right? Violence of action.
But there's things to take away from that in being defensive. Right. If you're being observant and objective about the things that you're doing. Right.
Airsoft, like these events are as much a use of violence of action, but also restraint. So it's such a valuable tool. Like, you know, we are not going to hit this objective if we think we cannot take it. So there's the analysis, there's the observation, the communications between two different elements using radios. Like it's huge, man. You're not just like, you get what you put into it, right? Is what a lot of people say about Airsoft. And if you treat it with that realistic mindset and actually put in those good reps, working with that small unit that you have, reconning, planning your assault, planning your backup plans like you would in real life, dude, it's an incredible experience.
So what I'm hearing and seeing, sort of going back to the media piece and what we're seeing on Instagram, is there's a lot more guys coming over from the LEO and the mill side that are starting to accept this a little bit more.
Especially,
Whereas before it was like, you fucking guys.
Yeah, you want to pretend to be us is how Airsoft was looked at. It was like, you guys are pretending to be the real guys. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's just, it's humbling, and also it's hard when majority of law enforcement and military guys, from my experience, are usually more of like a alpha male type personality.
Right.
And it's like, I've told you guys before, like I skipped the whole Airsoft thing, no matter how cool I thought it was. Cause by the time I like got into firearms, I'd already been working out for years and stuff like that. I was like, fuck that. I'm doing the real thing. I'm not going to fuck around with Airsoft.
So this goes back to the whole, like, how did you describe that, Bryant? You said the Equalizer Hobbies.
Right.
You had already equalized from a physical perspective.
Yeah, like I stopped being the fat kid and stuff like that, and I already felt like all this confidence from fitness and all this sport and stuff. I started to do it as like
you skipped a grade.
Yeah, exactly. And then now, where I'm at now, I'm like telling these guys all the time, like, what do I need? Let's go. Like, I'll buy fucking whatever you guys don't have. Because the bottom line is like all these people that have bug out bags, or claim to be like Minutemen or whatever. It's like, okay, you can have that 100-pound fucking backpack where it's like literally the size of your whole body, and then go hike in it. You can see how comfortable it is and how it is camping. But how is it when, oh shit, we just got fucking ambushed, and then you have to run around with that and then hope you don't fuck anything up, drop anything, see how the gear holds up in just that one situation. Now, what do you do with that same ruck or / bug out bag if you're just somebody who likes, because that's a common theme in our community, right? Like Minutemen, you know what I mean? Like bug out bags, like if shit hits the fan, you have like a 3-day bag, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like how often do you see somebody like either get ambushed, you know what I mean? Like through Airsoft where you're like, fuck, I got to get everything and go. How does your gear hold up? And then also shit, we have to like actually like assault this team or whatever. How's your bug out bag built at that point now? Is it too crazy? Like, are you making too much noise, or your pots and pans clinking around and shit like that? You know, and I think that's interesting because like I'll go to range days with you guys when it's just the boys like going out into the fucking wilderness, and we're just talking, and I'm like eating my packed food, you know, and you guys bust out little like flames and fucking
jet boils.
Jet boils, and like we're all just having a conversation. You guys have all this like gear that you bust out, like this mini kitchen and stuff. I'm like, damn, you guys really are who I'd call if shit hit the fan. Like, dude, you guys are a bunch of airsofters.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
I'll give you a couple different scenarios. Like at this one last op we were at, we were infilling to establish our forward base. We had like a staggered column of guys. We were all rucked up, right? And this was after maybe like a mile and a half of rucking in. Like people were just, it was sucky. And people were letting the guard down, right?
Because they're tired.
They're tired. And we're walking by this outcropping, this hill above, like maybe to my 2 o'clock, maybe 50 yards away, this rock outcropping. I'm like, dude, that's a really good fucking place to get ambushed from. Lo and behold, out pop these dudes, and they start lining up our column, and we're like, fuck, react to contact right now. We're all wearing rucks. So me and my guys immediately assault up the hill with our rucks on, drop ruck, like, again, where are you going to get that? You know, where are you get
with your plate carrier and
with your plate
all
carrier
that good stuff, right?
Another example, like, you know, when we establish our base, you take some of your kit off, you drop your ruck, you drop your rifle, maybe your plate carrier if you're just hanging around the base, but you get attacked at your base. How fast can you throw on your fighting kit, get your rifle, and react to contact efficiently in an organized manner? Where are you going to train that, you know?
Yeah, literally. There's so many aspects that are so not trained in our community. Like, I don't know how many dudes think that they're just going to go buy like a 1911, hit the indoor range and be like fucking ready, bro.
Well, I think we see that a lot, and we hear about it a lot. And we've just had a recent experience with, you know, we've talked about some different equipment and things that we've done. And I try to stay pretty careful about not talking about shit I don't know about. I've had enough experiences in my life to know that there's a lot of things that I don't know. And I'm only going to talk about the things that I've figured out to the extent that I've figured it out with a tremendous humbleness about what I don't know. Here's my point to that, to both your points. I don't think there is another way to get it. I mean, for us, when I was a kid, it was BB guns, but we weren't thinking the same way. You know, again, we were playing around a clubhouse or whatever, we were shoot one another and it was bang, bang, and you're wasted and you're dead. And okay, then you got to sit out around to the next round. We didn't have gear. We weren't throwing on rucks. We were out for the afternoon in the sun or whatever and having a good time. And we certainly weren't thinking the way that I think the mindset was different, right? It was more about fun. There wasn't a lot of practical application to this.
Right.
There was certainly no training. It was just, you kind of showed up like, do you know how to use this? You know how to load this thing, with, this BB gun? Okay, great. Then you're in. So what I see is this kind of, I guess, amalgamation of skill sets, right? And equipment and gear and culture and backgrounds, whether it's, and there's tons of people that are coming into it from the military background because they're looking to, continue on with the skills that they've learned and say, hey, I'm not in it anymore. I mean, that transition out of being a war fighter and being in the shit on a daily or regular basis or 6-month deployment and being faced with total adversity and, the adrenaline rush and the ops tempo and everything else to nothing, like they'll take anything they can get.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
Right. And there's a ton for them to contribute to the community. And then on the flip side, you have all these people that are coming into it from the airsoft community that they're fighting in different environments. I mean, these ops that you're fighting in are not Afghanistan. Right. They're not Iraq, right? They're totally different terrain. They're totally different environments. You're using different gear. It's more advanced gear. I mean, if you talk to a lot of these guys, they'll tell you like, dude, we didn't have this shit. I wish we had this shit. I wish we had these optics. I wish we had this type of comfortable, lightweight, functional, accessible gear, but we don't. So you're seeing this innovation that's happening both on the tactics side and on the gear manufacturing side, and then obviously the practical application of how you put it all together side.
Right.
It's really interesting to me. I've not airsofted. I do want to try it.
We'll change that one day.
Yeah, just not.
Well, I know we were talking about getting a few teams together with just like our community and rent out a spot so everybody goes into it with the right training mindset. Like, look, dude,
get randos.
We're all fucking shooters. Let's get 3 teams going or 2 teams.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that comes back to what I was saying before, how I started this whole thing, which was if I have questions about anything, firearms, airsoft gear, whatever, I tend to go to you as a valid and trusted resource because of the experiences that you've had and the people that you engage and interact with on a regular basis. And I think for a lot of people, they might think that's weird.
Right. Like you're going to an airsofter to get his take on, but dude, when you test your gear at these 40-hour ops, like you are going to break shit. You're going to bring it to its limit, right? I mean, how much can the flat range really test out your kit?
It's very limiting.
Even if you do VTAC barriers, it's still not going to put you in the same positions that you might be firing from an airsoft or, I mean, just the sheer harsh conditions. Like one of the AOs we go to is like a burned out, destroyed, abandoned Air Force base. There's rubble, there's nails, there's glass, like everything that could potentially damage your shit. It's gonna, like, whether it's ripping your plate carrier, your brand new Cries you just got. That happened, by the way. I ripped a giant hole. I don't want to talk about it.
$350 pair of pants.
Yeah. But dude, like, where are you going to test that? Like, I was talking to Will earlier. One of the last ops we went to, we were in one building we were occupying one room and the enemy was in the room next to us. Drywall separating us. And this is another point where you have to separate airsoft from reality because drywall isn't cover. But besides that point is I had my mod light on my airsoft rifle on a light bar. So the mod light is the furthest protrusion on my airsoft gun.
It comes out past the muzzle device?
It does.
Okay.
And so
we talked about this the other day.
Yeah. And we're like, dude, these fuckers are on the other side of this wall. So I start muzzle striking the wall with my mod light and punching like
through the drywall.
through the drywall and like a bunch of other rubble. There's some like concrete mixed up in there too, because there's like some foundational piece of the building. And we're just hammering holes through the wall with my mod light. And then after that, like opening up the murder holes and killing the guys on the other side. But again,
you can't get that otherwise.
Yeah, where are you punching holes in with your mod light, right? So it's total validation of kit, even though, you know, people will look down on it. But again, we're coming back to what is the best thing that can civilians do to test and validate their equipment, right? I see a lot of guys with radios on them. Like one of the trends, besides from like the recce rifle, has been like getting into comms and getting radios. But a lot of these flat range shooters, I'm like, dude, have you ever used your radio? Do you know how to use it? They're like, no, it's just on my kit. Like I've never used it. Like, dude, at Airsoft games, like we are
constantly communicating.
Dude, comms are so fucking huge. I need to get better with like the radio gear stuff, but like, yeah, until you do something like Airsoft, unless you come from like a very similar background with like maybe team stuff, like it's really hard to like think you're about to go clear a room. And you have to have really descriptive communication with each other. Like, you know, Bryant, I'm going to step up on this door, dude. You got my 6 or things like that. You know what I mean? I'm going in 3, 2, 1. I'm 1, you're 2. And then you split, right? And like, you think everything's all cool on Call of Duty until you have to go do something like that. Dude, and if you don't have Sims or Airsoft, you literally aren't training that.
One of the biggest other benefits, right, to that point is the stress inoculation of Airsoft, right? Mm-hmm. Because no matter what you do, it's going to fall apart. And I know that your life is not on the line, like you're getting shot by plastic BBs, but I mean, let me tell you, when I first started playing Airsoft, I remember that it was so overwhelming. There was so much sensory input, so many things I was worrying about, that my buddy standing 2 feet away from me, yelling in my ear, Bryant, like
you couldn't hear him.
Nothing. Like I didn't even know he was talking to me. I was just holding down this like angle and just completely focused. Like I heard nothing that he said. He was yelling in my ear, my name. And it wasn't until I started playing Airsoft more and more and more that I could like, that wasn't an issue anymore. So that stress inoculation, it was happening. I mean, that's pure evidence right there.
I think that's interesting because what other experiences, and we've really already covered this is a bit rhetorical, what other experiences in your life would you have ever had that kind of stress inoculation?
Right.
I can tell you for me, like some of that inoculation that I would have had or experience and exposure I would have had would have been on the football field.
And for me, I didn't have that. So what
in a bar fight?
Yeah, I didn't have confrontational
working as a bouncer and having the shit just pop off and go crazy. Yeah. And next thing you know, there's weapons involved, and there's sirens, and there's lights, and there's loud music, and there's light. It's dark, and there's all those things going on. So if you haven't had that ever before, what a great way! When I say great, valuable way to experience those kind of things, to kind of test, you know, where you're at, and then be able to step back and sort of download and reflect on. So, you know, I think what we're hearing more and what we're seeing more and more is the value in the Airsoft community and what they're bringing to the table, particularly in the testing of gear and their feedback for these gear companies, because of the reps that people take. I mean, you're going 40 hours of, you can, anywhere in the country, you can get into an Airsoft game. Right. Yeah. And people learn any number of things that are out there. And that's made the barrier of entry for these types of gear companies, whatever, very low. Like, you know, hey, I've got this out now, and this is what you need, and this is what you want. And people are looking for the cheapest entry level. And then other people are looking for the highest level. I want to wear what the DevGru guy is wearing or whatever else. But I'm going to be honest, like what I've seen is this total push, and I don't know if it's evolution, but certainly innovation in this gear and in this equipment. I mean, every month you're seeing somebody making improvements to lighter weight, more durable, more ergonomic, more functional type of gear. I mean, if you look back, and here's a good example, like if you look back into the 90s when we're talking about, you know, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Desert Storm, whatever, and the guys that were on the ground there were wearing then. And 10 years later, what they were wearing. And then 10 years after that, what they were wearing. There was this constant evolution. It took 20 years or whatever for it to evolve to where it was last year. I feel like in this community and the things that the civilians are starting to contribute to this thing, it's a fraction of the time now.
Right.
And I mean, the firearms community, the gear community, the whole community as a whole, whether from an economic and from an innovation and a training perspective, have a lot to thank the airsoft community.
Yeah, well, JP chimes in on this subject a lot about how much civilians are driving innovation, right? Because they're not held down by guidelines or
there's
rules.
no standards. Yeah. There's no agency policy
contract.
Yeah. They don't have to wear stuff that somebody else says they have to wear. They get to make their own choices. I mean, it's America, right? So you get to buy and operate in whatever you choose.
That was a point that I was going to make, is that for, I'd say Bryant, Will, me, we always have these conversations, at least recently, where we're trying to bring different pieces, different branding to, like, let's say he has an AR for low light. He uses this light. I use this light. Will uses this light. Same thing with handgun stuff. Like, I just picked up a Surefire Vampire so that we can play with that with nods. Right. So, like, where else are you going to, like, get real training to where, again, you're in real places, really beating up this gear and finding, like, maybe the perfect setup that's durable, that works well with nods, that's like, maybe it's mobile enough to do 3 days of rucking without being too crazy, because there's no contracts and there's no standard that, like, is put on you, right? So a lot of these guys, like, that are fresh out the military, like, they did the absolute best that they could do
with what they were given.
Right. But there's a limit to their knowledge simply because
of what you just said.
Yeah.
The contracts and things like that. People like us, we can literally, like, spend infinite amounts of money and just do all this testing and say, look, like send it to somebody who's battle proven and be like, hey, this is what we came up with. Now give us your perspective on this after you run it. Right. And so it's like a give and take. And, like, it's like you and me have talked about a lot, Scott, like if everybody kind of just, like, pick and chose from each other and kind of just opened up and try to utilize each other, there'd be a faster rate of growth and innovation. Right. Cause, like, Haley Strategic, I know he does airsoft, like, periodically now.
Yeah. He's been doing it actually really frequently. Him, Milspec Mojo, like a lot of the gun guys.
And I'm pretty sure nobody's, like, looking at Travis Haley and saying, like, bro, I don't care about your opinion, even though he has, like, a shit ton of experience and he, like, walks the walk, you know what I mean? But he sees the value, because there's people who are confident enough of themselves they can really just take a step back and, like, be like, okay, I see the value in this. I see the value in this. I see the value in what I provide, and, like, trying to find the best in all of it. And, like, let's be honest too, from a business perspective, if you look at airsoft hashtags, because every single person in the world has access to airsoft, not firearms, you're going to see way more posts for airsoft.
It's so funny, and it's international, right? Yeah. So in countries where you cannot have guns, or firearms, you can have airsoft guns. Right. There's been just some activity on my own Instagram page with some people from, and by the way, all walks of life, male and female, in other regions of the world, that are very, very heavily into this game, which, again, only drives innovation and through the European market. So you're seeing European companies come up with some pretty cool shit, right?
The European gear makers have been off the charts lately.
So, right. Yeah. So there's this whole other market out there. So look, yeah, you're right, JP. I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, and people should be coming together and talking a little bit more, because the testing ground here is wide open. There really is no limitation. And I think you're starting to see some of the smarter people sort of come on board with this, going, yeah, maybe we should be looking at this a little bit more. Not necessarily going out and airsofting, but taking some cues and basically, having some dialogue with those that maybe are wearing this, more sort of modern gear, if you will. Again, I mean, while there are teams out there and there are operators, we have a very well put together military right now that's running and doing shit that we don't even know about. We're not going to know about. There is a whole other set of, operators out there that don't get that kind of action or don't see that type of operational tempo, that are kind of stuck wearing the same stuff and being taught, some old stuff or whatever. And we talk to them. I mean, we talk to these guys, and, on occasion, again, not a ton of them, not trying to say that we, have all these connections that we don't have. Just enough though to be like, I don't think what we're saying is wrong. Right.
Yeah.
That's all. So I want to kind of accelerate this a little bit, because then we move into how does this transfer and how does this translate into the world of firearms, where we're shooting actual rounds down range and not BBs. And here's my first experience with you, Brian. This is where I met you, was on a range not too far from here. It was your first day out ever with your AR-15.
My brand new BCM rifle. Yeah.
Brand new. And hitting steel at 50 yards, like in sub 1 second. And I was like, somebody said out loud, "Oh, dude, that's pretty good for your first day." I was like, no fucking, like this dude, no way. I mean, it was coming up. Sight picture was there. I was standing literally right behind you, and the speed, the efficiency, the proficiency, the accuracy, and the consistency in what you were doing. And I was going, what in the fuck? This dude's better than I am. And I've been out here for a while. And what was really foreign to me and what really caught me off guard is, I've never done this before, but this is the exact same build as my Airsoft rifle.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing. So there was a huge transfer, right, over, and what we call that in sort of fitness and performance is there's a transfer like from cycling to running, right? Like that leg turnover that you get in cycling transfers directly over into running. Like it doesn't make you a better runner, but it helps you be a more efficient runner. Interestingly, it doesn't transfer the other way, being a runner to a cyclist. But the leg turnover and the cadence that you use on cycling transfer over into being a faster, more efficient runner. If trained properly. There's some other factors there, but my point is like when I saw this happen right there in front of my very eyes, I was like, Jesus, this dude's very skilled. Like this doesn't just happen from dry fire, right, in your bedroom, right, or in your garage or in your living room or whatever else. Like, where's this coming from? So I was very impressed by that. And I think when you look at how many reps can you really get, right? How much range time can you really have versus how do you combo your dry fire, your range time, and your airsoft, and how many more reps you get versus the typical dude. It's impressive.
Right. If you guys primarily just shoot at the range, right? How often do you guys shoot at the range?
Once a week at best. It's usually once a week. Usually at least 3 times a month. And sometimes it's more because we'll get like a full weekend in.
Yeah,
but we won't get the next weekend or something.
If we're doing full weekends, that's like a good month for us. If we do a full weekend.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. I want to say that for the average range goer, it's probably less than that.
Oh, way
based
less.
on access and ammo and their drive, right?
Yeah, and all that.
Finances.
So, yeah, definitely. Ammo's crazy, right? But when you start putting these things together, you put dry fire, you put airsoft, and then maybe less frequent range days based on whatever limitations there are. Like, dude, that is a killer combo for building a really great skill set in terms of tactics, in terms of repetitions and developing those motor skills. Like it's everything. It's the full package really for like the civilian who's interested in becoming a better, more prepared and efficient person. Really.
And by the way, like clearly, dude, if it wasn't fun,
dude,
you wouldn't be doing it. So I think I want to come back to something, and that is it's fun, right? And I probably, if you're not having fun, then why are you doing it? But I don't think anybody out there is doing it and not having fun.
Yeah.
But I want to come all the way back to the beginning for a second and draw some parallels or connect some dots in that, when you were trying to find some agency as a young man, right? And trying to find a thing where you could, there could be some self-expression, but there was also this, again, Equalizer hobby. And, like I don't have to be 6'5" and I can be 5'6".
Right.
I don't have to be 6'5" and 265. I can be 5'6" and 165 or whatever, and still compete here. There's that, but there's got to be a camaraderie. There's got to be a sense of brotherhood or whatever community that exists there. And maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
It is absolutely one of the biggest. It's going to be corny to some people, but we have an airsoft team, and it's comprised of, a couple former Marines, 2 guys who are going to be cops. And so like you said earlier, those guys, they got out and they're looking for something, right, to replace that brotherhood, that camaraderie that they had when they were in. And as a team, when we go experience these things together, when we ruck these miles, when we suffer and sleep in the freezing cold, and when we do get those awesome raids on the enemy, and when we do get absolutely demolished by the enemy, those are things we experience together as a group. And that collective experience, that willingness to take a BB for the other guy, you know what I mean? It's something. I think Milspec Mojo, most people know him, said this on one of his videos or Instagram comments, but he said that it took him back to his deployments. It took him back to the same feeling, catching some rest, catching a nap under his vehicle while they're waiting to go hit whatever op they were or thing they were going to go do. It's that same experience, you know, with your boys. It's that collective. You experience the suck together, you win together, you suffer together, you train together. Yeah, it's amazing, really. As a civilian, it's hard to get that.
Oh, totally. I mean, and if you missed out on the whole team experience as a young man, right? Whether that be through soccer, which you decided wasn't for you,
right?
You know, for me, I was, I played soccer as a young kid, but I also played baseball. But my most formidable years as a coming a man, kind of thing was football and wrestling.
Right. So you had that team.
Oh, and all the things you just described there, I experienced then. And there's not a dude on the face of the earth. And by the way, I have an older daughter who played soccer, who could very much relate to this. She played soccer at a very competitive level, who could likely also relate to this, that there's not, I don't want to go back to the dude's perspective. There's not a dude on the face of the earth that played football or was on a wrestling team where they got out and they competed with their buddies and they sacrificed and they suffered and they lost and they won and they battled together and they got hurt together and, all those things. It doesn't remember that as some of the best times in their life.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. The worst times were the best times.
And so now, in a day where we're stuck behind a fucking computer screen and we're listening to this trash that's coming across the media, right? And we're looking at all the garbage and the static and the noise that's just getting pushed out there. More than ever, people are looking for this agency, right? And they're looking for a team, but and they're having a tough time finding that spot. And that is the strength in the community that we're in, because slowly but surely what we're seeing is this community start to grow, and it's coming from all these different factions. And I think we're still a little bit lost. We haven't fully connected yet, because there's still a lot of people that are pushing back, like we just said, like with regard to the airsoft world, and like, why are you doing that? You're trying to be like us. And no, dude, I'm not trying to be like you at all. I'm trying to be like me.
Living my best life, man.
I'm living my best life with my buddies, and we're out here having a good fucking time.
I get that all the time, dude.
Right?
I get people in the comments.
You're just weird.
So what are you training for, dude? I'm training to be the fucking best version of me, of JP. And I like to do cool shit.
Right. And
it's America.
I like to talk to and hang out with cool fucking people.
Yeah.
And those cool people contribute a lot more to my life and they contribute a lot more value than just, what gear you run, what chest trigger you running today, or what base plate, what trigger, right? Or, what slide, what optic or whatever. Those are all, cool conversations. And because I love picking people's brains, especially those that are well-read and educated and experienced. But it isn't about that. It's about making a connection with people. And we're living in a time right now where people are afraid to do that or don't know how to do that, which to me is super sad. So when we get out on the range and we're out there, again, I haven't airsofted yet, but I can tell you, any of these events we've gone to, and you and I, Bryant, and you and I, JP, we spent hours, days, literally together, and learning things and being challenged together. And there's so much that can be extracted from that. And what I always appreciate is about being able to step back from it and talk not just about what we learned from that specific experience, but what we learned about one another during that time. And that might sound a little corny, going back to your whole corny thing, but at the end of the day, that's the same shit I experienced when I played football when I was 13 years old, man.
Yeah.
The same shit.
Right.
And by the way, again, best time of my life.
Oh yeah.
Best time of my life.
And, I struggled for a long time trying to belong to something, right? And I don't think it wasn't until I had this connection with my airsoft guys when I got into the gym that I found that, right? We're missing so much of that human connection. It's like the most primal thing that we humans need. I think that's like part of the reason why people are getting outdoors, why people are getting to just the basics, right? We're overwhelmed by so much media. Like sit in your box, order DoorDash, and watch what's on the screen. Right?
The echo chamber. Yeah.
Yeah, we're sick of that. So when we go airsoft, when we go hit the gym, when we go outdoors and get away from all this, it's this primal basics, right? That, man, it's so refreshing. And to belong to something like this, like the gym, like airsoft, dude, there's nothing that could replace it.
Yeah. So you brought up the physical fitness piece and where that maybe fits in for you. And we've talked about a lot of things right now, but that's sort of a new, again, you didn't do the athletics piece. That was the band and the academics, and you said the skateboarding and the cars and whatever else, but you have the physical fitness piece, and maybe you can just talk a little bit about how you got there and how that's contributed and where you are now, particularly in your life and the things that you do and how you're approaching it. Because I think a lot of people get intimidated by it, particularly your story,
especially me,
your story, right? Guys like you, they're like, where do I fucking start, man? Like, where's the value in this for me? And how do I start? Because it looks like it's all like powerlifting, and if I don't have abs, I suck, right? If I can't do fucking 15 pull-ups, I suck. If I can't clean and jerk, double my body weight, I suck. Like what does this mean for me? So maybe you could talk a little bit about that. And then I have another question for you. Yeah,
for sure. So from the fitness perspective, again, it was always very intimidating to me. I didn't want to get in the gym. I grew up, very insecure, right? Very self-conscious. So being in that room where people are like towering, muscular dudes, like that was very intimidating. One of my biggest excuses growing up for not working out was that, why should I work out when even at my best level, I'm not going to be as good as that giant athletic dude who is gifted, right? What a cop-out excuse. Because I've realized from training with you guys, from coming here, that like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like you can be your best self. And finding that drive really came from being held accountable, being in this team environment that we have going on here that you guys have created. When we work out, we hold each other accountable. Will, JP, and me, and the rest of the other guys, there are so many times where I just want to stop and quit. It fucking hurts so bad, man. But Will's not stopping, JP's not stopping, and I'm not going to stop. I can't let them down, I just can't let them down. So this is the first time in kind of like my fitness journey that I have had that. I went to the gym in college a couple times and solo working out, just going to the gym alone with headphones in, trying to do something that might benefit me, but it never felt the way it does now. Like I look forward to these gym sessions so much because I get to be with my guys and suffer with my guys and grow with my guys, right? It's an all encompassing like experience with your guys, similar to the same things we talked about experiencing through airsoft or through what people experience in the military. It's that same bonding experience that draws us all together. So really that having that team collective, that accountability is really what pushes me, right? And seeing the capabilities, like when I first saw JP on the range, I saw how he's moving. I started following him. I saw his workouts. I was like, holy fuck, like this is what's capable of the human body. Like that's awesome. And I was like,
you're too nice.
That's funny you say that, because when, again, going back to my experience with you, the first day I saw you shooting, which is the first day you were out there with live fire, right?
Right.
And just sharing that story, I think it was JP and I it was after a course or a long range day or something. We're like, can you imagine Bryant with maybe like 8 more pounds of muscle on him and, about 3 or 4 months of fitness programming underneath him, in terms of his ability, his strength, his endurance, his swimming patterns. Like, this fucking dude's going to be better than both of us by a million years. So it's great to hear you kind of describe it that way, because there is potential there. And I think people need to understand what their potential is and understand how the fitness programming or how, making the fitness as much a part of the, whatever it is, airsoft training. You have to make it applicable, right? Because in college, when you're working out purely for the reason is, everyone else works out, I should probably work out.
But now I'm working out to be better at airsoft. I'm working out so I can go backpacking. I'm working out so I can be better on the range. There is a purpose to this training.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. No. Right? I mean, it's pretty simple.
We have like a really good time.
We have fun.
We usually spend like 2 hours, but like we pretty much cover everything we'd need to cover everything he does, and then like maybe some sports stuff in there.
But by the way, it's not 7 days a week. You know, it's it's a couple of days a week with some homework, and you know, it keeps people motivated, and it gives people the stimulus they need in order to make improvements.
It's not hard to do, and once you get rid of that block, I mean, I had it for so many years. Once you get rid of that block, man, it's an addiction. Yeah. That's all you want to do.
Yeah, it's been a problem for me for a lot of years. Yeah, so I mean, I appreciate that take and just you kind of sharing your experience, because I've seen you grow from a confidence perspective, but also from an ability perspective right in front of my eyes with the commitment that you have made in terms of taking your fitness as a major responsibility as seriously as you take your firearms and your airsoft training, and the research that you do, and the knowledge that you have at such a different level. And one of those things, and this was my question, and so it's really just it's just kind of a probing question, but more or less, I've learned everything I know, which is so little at this point because of the how fast this industry moves and how fast the technology is changing. But everything I know, I quit reading about nods. I quit reading about NVGs. Yeah. I quit reading about night vision and all the things and lasers and all the things that come along with that, because it's just gotten so daunting. It's so intimidating. The technology is changing so fast. And so I just want to know if there's an opportunity for us to get back in here and maybe have you kind of open up a little bit about your knowledge and the depth that you've studied and applied and learned about this whole night vision thing, because it's fascinating to me, and I think it is to a lot of other people. I mean, who doesn't want knots? Yeah. Right? I mean,
it's all the rage these days.
They're fucking cool. Yeah. But it's like, where do you start with the whole thing? So, I would love to have you back in here, Brian, if it's cool with you. Maybe,
absolutely, man. I'd love to.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, people are probably starting to see this trend. I get obsessed with things, right? And when I get obsessed with nods, I've probably owned like 7 or 8 pairs now.
And that might look really weird to people from the outside.
Right.
But is it though? Because it's like the technology has advanced so much, like it's almost like you're trying to keep up, because it's like cameras or phones, right? Like whatever you bought today is obsolete tomorrow,
right?
Because it's just advancing so fast.
Yeah. So to stay well read and experienced on the technology, I was buying and selling nods at like every 2 months just to learn everything I could about each unit and move on from it, get the new one, learn from it, move on to the next one. But throughout that journey, and from what knowledge I've gained from obsessing over every little detail, I've helped a lot of people get into the game as well. So it's definitely a daunting subject. I mean, when you Google night vision, when you Google PVS 14, you're going to have like 10 different websites to choose from. Which one do I go with? Why does this one PVS 14 on this website cost $4,500? Why does this other site cost $2,000? Like, there's so many weird things about it that at a surface level, right, is like, I'm stuck. I'm frozen.
JP and I are both chuckling because we've both been there. We're like,
I'm paying how much to get a blemished?
Yeah. My brain's blown up. And it's not like, how many people need them. I think that's part of the conversation. Like, do I really need them? There could probably be a debate either way on whether I need them or not, but that's not stopping people from buying them.
Right.
So
you just gotta know.
Yeah, you just need to know. And it's about making smart buying decisions and again, informing people of what's important, maybe what's not important, and then laying a foundation for decision making, for informed decision making. And that's what JP and I try really hard to do just on this show, is give people some different perspectives. So they're not feeling like, this is what this one or two guys is saying, so I should probably do this, because there's a lot of different perspectives. And again, taking into account all the experience that you've had, which I think we could peel back the layers of the onion on in a whole other episode. I would love to do that with you if you're down.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to do that, because I think there's probably a whole other this whole other ball of wax we could start
spend a lot of time
we
on
could spend
night
we could spend a lot of time there and maybe do some cool stuff with. But look, man, I appreciate you coming down. And I think that, this was a super valuable experience for me. I mean, all the conversations we've had are oftentimes on the range or, after a long range day.
Fleeting conversations.
In a social kind of environment. We've been out on the gym floor and I see you coming and going and this was valuable. This is valuable for me. And JP is always like that guy who's kind of the catalyst for all this stuff. So I appreciate you, brothers. Thanks.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh, that was awesome, man. Being here is like, man, it's a happy place for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that. So, we'll wrap this one up, but that's only on the caveat that, we're going to do this again real soon because I got so many questions for you.
As many other people do. So we'll clear those up. We'll be good to go.
Cool. Right on, guys. Thanks very much for your time. We'll talk soon.